the 3. Yeah. They never say
Welcome
2
to
and the
another
1.
episode of
The Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. Not culturally problematic anymore. I do like Tonto though.
You know what's funny is Tonto. There's an app on the Linux computer here called, what is it? Shortwave. Shortwave. And it's a free internet radio app, and so you can literally listen to a million stations for free. You know, but one of them is a old radio serial station, so it's kind of neat to like hear, you know, some of those old shows. Who was that masked man? There's a Far Side. My favorite cartoonist, the Far Side, Gary Larson, but he's got one where the Lone Ranger's like retired and sitting in a chair, and he's got this book, and it's like Native American dictionary or whatever, and he's like, oh, here it is, Kimo Sabi, horse's ass. What?
Another name? What? No.
Hey, yes, Kimo Sabi.
Kimo Sabi. Dude, it feels like nothing at all has happened in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been like super chill.
The only thing that happened last week is that I was right again. More of my predictions coming true. Dude, I should play this game.
Which prediction was this one?
Oh, that we would bomb them.
Oh, that we would, yeah. You know, I'll tell you, I think
the deep state always wins, bro.
Well, no. So the scenario that I was anticipating, which was that we would sort of sell the weapon, we could just be arms dealers, you know, like we normally are. I didn't realize that the only way that this particular bomb has to be dropped from an extremely high altitude, and that you need a very particular kind of airplane to do it, and
a pilot,
and we don't sell those.
Yep.
And so there really isn't a way to just like, here, you can buy these from us. Like we actually have to be the FedEx guy as a, you know, special
delivery man. That's right. Amazon Prime, man.
I mean, it's one of those where I guess I hope that whatever was in that cave was so valuable and important to be destroyed that it was worth actively entering the conflict. I mean, it better be, you know, if not, it looks pretty stupid. But
well,
you know, we'll see.
Like all you guys say, we just have to trust President Trump, man. He knows.
Wait, what do you mean, all you guys? Who's all you guys?
What's that? Remember from It's a Wonderful Life when little George Bailey, the druggist, tells him to go deliver the drugs. He knows they're poison. He doesn't know what to do, and up there he sees a sign that says, it's got this guy smoking a cigar. And it says, "Ask Dad, he knows."
Right.
Like that's exactly.
He knows the right kind of cigar.
He knows. Ask Dad.
Like, oh, I better go ask him. No, so I'm pretty anti-war guy myself. I don't think
I've heard that about you.
I'm not a pacifist. I think sometimes war is necessary, but you know, usually not. Primitive ones are not usually my cup of tea. So. Not a fan of this one unless, like I said, if there was some like crazy reason that there's like, no, we have to, like, this thing has to be destroyed. We tried sending in saboteurs, that didn't work. There simply isn't. It's either this, or we escalate into a nuclear conflict there in the Middle East, and we can't allow that to happen or something. I don't know.
You got the sales pitch down, man. That's exactly the way they said it. Yeah.
I think that's what they're thinking. I mean, I haven't seen it, but you know, guess I'm not allowed to. So.
Not only have you not seen it, but our own director of national intelligence didn't see it. So you know.
Yeah.
But like Trump says, I don't believe her. I know they are.
Well. You know, I'll tell you though, if there was ever a really good justification to get nuclear weapons, this would be it.
Exactly, man.
You know,
like message received by everybody. Get those.
If you didn't have one before, you need them now.
They're on sale at Alibaba this weekend only.
Go get them.
Mad Max selling everything.
I feel like that's got to be the lesson out of this. I mean, not just for Iran, but for everybody. That, like, hey, you never know. Like at some point, you know, you might go get crossways with somebody, and can't expect them to.
Might need a nuke.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's like as long as you have the means to defend yourself with a nuclear weapon, then you know they're not gonna do any shenanigans. Keeps everybody real friendly. You know, like India and Pakistan had that thing flare up, and they're like, "Oh, we got to shut this down right away," because
Yeah.
the two of
Those
them,
guys have nukes.
well, but yeah, they're looking across the
Right.
board
Right.
at the other guys, and are like, "Whoa, you know, like we like you the whole escalation things becomes real tricky." So like you that becomes a priority real fast, where
Yep.
before it might be like, well, you know, let's keep fighting for a little bit. It's like, no, we don't want to do that.
We don't need to do that anymore. We're good. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the so supposedly the Iranians are going to come here and visit with Trump. That's what he's claiming anyway. You know,
Yeah. Like, hey, peace,
let's
peace in our time.
peace in our time. That's a peace in our time.
By the way, so
Uh,
those of you guys who are listeners, if there are any, one of the things that they don't know, might not know about me, is I live in the district. My congressman is Al Green. It's nine.
oh
I'm
yeah, that's
Texas
right. Yeah.
9. And he's kind of he, you know, there's most Democrats are anti-Trump, but he is like he has a special ire for him, and he has the honor of being the first person to file impeachment articles against Trump in his first term, and they were shut down. And he did it again; they were shut down again. And so I just got an email from him. It says on Wednesday, June 25th, that's today, Congressman Al Green delivered remarks on the House floor warning President Trump of additional impeachment articles if unauthorized force in Iran persists. So listen up, you know, he's going to
I'm gonna
file
impeach
even
you
more.
again.
I'm going to file even more. Well, and this last one, I think something like 150 Democrats voted against it. They're like, it's not impeachable, you know, like, I'm sorry.
Well, we what we learned last time is that anything is impeachable. I mean, we can impeach over a fellatio even. So I mean, we'll impeach you, but there's no political will for it. I think, which
Yeah.
is
Not even on the
on the
Democrats.
Democrats. Yeah, I thought that was actually a more interesting story than Al Green's impeachment, was that so many Democrats voted against it. Like, this ain't the moment. It's interesting. Yeah, I was watching the whole. You know, what was reported as this, MAGA split or whatever. And, as a non-MAGA person,
You're not from Macedonia?
any conflict inside the MAGAdom is always, for me, fun to watch. And so I was having a really good time, like, oh, these guys tearing themselves apart. But I was under no doubt. I was like, dude, he's gonna absolutely do it, because one thing he is I don't want to call him a predator. He's not a predator, but he's like as a business person, as a the way he's functioned in the world has been like, oh, you smell weakness, attack, and so I said he's absolutely gonna do that. And most of MAGA is basically like rolled over and said, it's great with us, whatever, there's a few. So there was a few like high level, I thought, defections. So Dave Smith, from Part of the Problem, he was like, I'm out. I voted for him. I regret it. Candace Owens, of all people, is out. She's like, nope. But Bannon was opposed, but I haven't heard him. I think he also was like, I'm opposed, but I give Trump the benefit of the doubt. And Tucker finally tucked his tail and was called up and apologized or whatever. So that was that was interesting.
From my ear to the ground in that world, I think you have basically 3 categories, right? You've got the sort of the Trump partisans themselves, who are like, we're I don't want to call it cult of personality, but it sort of is. It's like the people who like Obama could do no wrong, no matter what it was, and like they would find some way for that to be okay.
Here's why it's different.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, see, this is the moral clarity here.
Right.
So you got that group.
Right.
They're not concerned. You've got the group that you're talking about, like the really staunchly non-interventionist, borderline isolation wing of MAGA. And then you've also got this third group, which is the no boots on the ground group, where it's like, hey, if we want to do some strategic stuff here or there. I mean, Trump bombed Syria in his first term, and still could tell people like, well, we didn't start any wars. Like we had a little intervention here, but
Right.
there were no boots on the ground, no Americans, were no long-term commitments, nothing like that. And so it's like that third group is still kind of like, well, if this is it, if this is all we're doing, and that's all, then it's like, okay, still keeping with the spirit of the thing. If it escalates past this and they're like, well, we thought that this would trigger regime change, but it didn't. So now we're going to have to invade from Turkey.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, no.
Get a few people getting off the bus then. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there'll be a ton. It's like, let's establish an independent Kurdistan. We'll carve up part of Iraq, the southern part of Turkey, the northern part of Iran. We'll have that, right? And then it's like, no. At that point, I think just about everybody, and I think that third group is the largest group, because in MAGA world, you do have a lot of like rah America military support kind of stuff. The ones that are really not even upset about an expansion of military budget, they're like, well, yeah, what else are we going to do with all the money? Like that's the only thing government's good for.
We put $1 trillion in there for a reason.
Yeah, right. So I feel like that group is probably the biggest part. And so that's why I don't think this is that dangerous for Trump or the Trump movement politically, the MAGA movement politically. I don't think so. But that's just my ear to the ground on some of this stuff.
What do you think about the conspiracy theory that says that the Tom Cruise Maverick movie was actually set in Iran?
What? I have not heard this. What?
That objective that they put forward in that movie, where they're like, they never say what country it is. It's just the enemy fighters, whatever.
Right.
But we have this base, and we got to get rid of this thing, and that crazy flight maneuver thing that he did, or whatever. Supposedly that's Iran. Yeah.
I don't think that's. I mean, it could be Iran. Like it's just whoever the enemy, the enemy, right? But these bombs were not dropped out of a fighter jet. It's some kind of low altitude thing. It's just insanely high altitude thing because the
Halo bombing.
Well, it's because those particular bombs have to achieve such incredible speed and their gravity design. You don't want to use up the weight with like rocket boosters and stuff. So you just you drop them and then they go.
Yeah. The videos of like what these bombs are capable of is actually kind of like, wow, this is the most powerful non-nuclear weapon in existence, supposedly,
Yeah. Well, and the fascinating thing about it is that it's only 15 tons.
That's it.
Well, no. So the reason that I mentioned only 15
30,000 pounds.
Yeah. The reason that I want to make sure
we almost need an extra syllable in the word ordnance to capture the size of this thing.
I want to make sure that I get the correct number here. The bomb that was used over Hiroshima, I want to say,
it's amazing that we have a plane capable of carrying 30,000 pound bomb.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here you go. So, 16. Oh, yeah. So the Hiroshima bomb, which is small by today's
that was Little Boy standard. Or Fat Man?
This is the Little Boy. Fat Man was for Nagasaki, I think. So Little Boy, it was 16,000 tons of TNT equivalent. So it's equivalent.
Yeah.
Equivalent. So 1,000 times more destructive power than this one. So like just to highlight the difference between a non-nuclear ordinance and nuclear ordinance.
Oh, yeah,
is
totally.
So vast. It's like it's impossible to like wrap your head around the difference of explosive power. So 1/1000th.
Yeah, that's crazy when you think about it. That's crazy. And
which is why
those aren't even like everybody like, oh, those are old bombs. Like we got bombs today that Yeah, it'll blow those bombs away, you know? Yeah.
Well, so now with the hydrogen bombs, they don't talk about like kilotons of TNT equivalent. They talk about megatons. So 1,000 times the power of those. So like
You know, I
so
read
the
something
missiles
interesting.
so this is not yet. The ballistic missiles that are sitting in the United States and in Russia, and I think the UK has a few of these, are a million times more destructive than those bombs that were just dropped a couple days ago.
It's crazy. So I read something. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's kind of interesting. So did you? I just heard this, and I was like, "Wow, is that true?" And I googled it. You may already know this, but
Hmm.
did you know that Superman 1 and Superman 2 were actually filmed at the same time? They were supposed to be the same movie. They're supposed to be just be Superman.
Oh,
Uh, Mario Puzo actually wrote the screenplay, the guy from The Godfather, and so and that's how Brando got attached to the project. Actually, is from The Godfather. Puzo, like that kind of came
was
together,
like what? Just
right?
like 2 years later or something? 3 years
Right.
later? Yeah.
So the way that movie initially was filmed, and Richard Donner was the director of the first one, and then he was credited with the second one, but then they had to bring this other guy because Donner's vision in the studio, whatever. And they want to break it apart into two movies. In the Donner cut, um, it's it's the nuclear bomb that Lex Luthor sends to California, if you remember, right?
Hmm.
And then it blows up everything, and then Superman spins the world backwards and grabs the bomb, right? And so the in the Donner cut, Superman takes the bomb that Lex Luthor fired, flies it up into space, and it's that bomb that explodes and frees the other criminals from the Phantom Zone. And that
Oh.
whole like sequence in Paris with the when you said hydrogen bomb, I just anytime I hear hydrogen bomb, I always hear the French guys, yes, we did a hydrogen bomb, at the top of the Paris, and so that whole sequence is not in the Donner cut of Superman 2, which is also kind of
Oh,
interesting. Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
Oh.
So just a little nuclear history for
Nu-
you.
it's
Nuclear,
nuclear.
pardon
Nuclear.
me. Yeah, George W. Bush
Yeah.
said nuclear. Yeah, nuclear.
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think
um,
it comes from nuke you, right? So nuclear.
nuclear.
Yeah, I'm gonna nuke
No,
you.
nuclear.
All right.
Uh,
So my real politic assessment of this whole thing is that Trump will come out smelling like a rose, and especially if the Iranians don't have really much of a countermeasure or something anything they can use. The attack that they did on the base in Qatar, I thought was pretty anemic. Even Trump's own assessment was, yeah, that's kind of a signal of like, okay, man, we're going to fire these off so we look good. But they even alerted us ahead of time that they were so everybody could get moved. So I think that was pretty much
yeah.
we got to do this for the people back home, and pay some bills back here, and
Got to make it
then
look good.
make it look good. Yeah, and I think if anything, it actually gives them a little bit more juice coming off of it's occurring as a political win right this moment. So we'll see if it exacerbates over time. But at this moment, it happens to coincide with the time that they're trying to pass this big, beautiful bill through the Senate and House and everything. I think it gives them a lot of political capital to use with those people, something like 80 some odd percent of Republicans. And that includes like, MAGA, non-MAGA. I mean, just 80% of them approve of these. It is interesting to me to see, like, most presidents understand that like any wars are good for the executive almost always,
Mhm.
until much later, in which time, that we hold you accountable for them. But
That time you're out of office.
yeah, so you saw like how, Bush especially was like so fast to say, I'm a war president. I'm a wartime president. No, you don't understand. I'm a war president. And you
Mhm.
see, it's interesting to see Trump go, his whole team. No, this isn't a war. We didn't do that. And we're not about that. I think it's very interesting, the difference in tone. And the other thing I think that it gives him is the thing that, and again, I'm not personally, I'm not a fan of the action, and I'm not a fan of what's happening. However, putting aside my personal opinion, I think that it's
Thinking like
it's
purely in strategic terms.
just in real
Yeah.
world, like as the cards are falling, right? I think it would have been difficult to predict necessarily this the outcome that we seem to be experiencing, but The fact that Israel could take out all those strikes and basically nobody in the Arab world protest at all. Seeing Iran reach out to Russia and China and basically being rebuffed in terms of, hey, we got nothing for you. And then also seeing the Ayatollah now, having that meeting with the rest of the mullahs, basically coming up with a, last minute succession plan. Like if I get taken out, here's what happens next. I think that it's a really unique moment. And again, I'm not calling for any American action to precipitate this, but like in general, as a half Iranian and as somebody who really I love the Iranian people, the Iranian culture. I've always loved it. We've grown up around it. It is a great country with great people, and this is a great time for somebody over there to stand up and say, we're not going to take it anymore. They've never been as close to, I think, a real regime change as they are right now. I mean, basically, you just need some credible person to step up into the gap. And unfortunately, right now, you don't see a lot of even, I don't know if you've been watching the Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, has been going around.
I read his statement. I haven't listened to him, but I read a statement about saying we need a democratic and officially secular Iran, and I'd be happy to assist in getting that put together. Right. And of course you would. Wouldn't everyone? Yeah.
Of course you would. But I think it's a complete joke. I mean, the idea that the Iranian people would accept, and I mean, there are people that are big fans of the Shah and may say, okay, well, because of his last name or whatever. But I mean, he speaks French, he does all this stuff. Yeah, he's also been an unapologetic Israel apologist for 40 years. I just don't see that as a. But there are many people in Iran that could step up. I just don't. It would be such a missed opportunity if there isn't some kind of popular, at least protest movement that emerges. But I'm not seeing anything yet. Are you?
I haven't seen any indication of that at all. So I don't know if that means that. Well, I mean, this does tend to happen if you're under attack. I mean, people tend to kind of rally around the flag a little bit. So it may be it's oh my gosh, we're being bombed by the outside, I feel very patriotic, kind of thing.
Yeah,
instead
for sure.
Yeah. So
it works on us. That's why they do it.
Yeah. I mean, and it may be that this is something that happens 6 months or a year from now. So people are like, wait a second, why are we putting up with this? And it also may be, I mean, the Islamic Republic is full of some really smart people. Depending on your point of view, kind of diabolically smart, but right. It's not like oh my gosh, these are a bunch of insanos. They're crazy. They're sort of frothing at the mouth like a J.J. Abrams villain or something. It's
right.
No. I mean, they're pretty smart people, and it may be that they're read the writing on the wall, and they kind of figure, okay, if we want to stay in power, we got to do X, Y, and Z to make that a reality. And maybe that's something okay, we're gonna reform or do some reform stuff, and we don't get something great, but it's okay, yeah. Okay. So I saw this, you're bringing this up. I am very skeptical of anything like this that comes out. This to me, I don't know, seems kind of irresponsible.
To report this, or to.
So this is coming out of a leaked report.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell from just digging around a little bit, where this comes from, who did it, why, how early it is. What is this an assessment that's we think it's between this and this, I mean, it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Fog of war stuff would indicate that this is way too early to make any kind of assessment like this. So I don't know. I'm very skeptical of this kind of. I'm equally skeptical of it's been totally obliterated. There ain't nothing left.
Yeah. Right.
It just happened. Nobody knows that. Not even the people on the ground know that.
Right.
So it's like, even if they're like, oh yeah, we were able to rescue X number of centrifuges, we shipped them out before, or it's like, yes, there was a lot of damage to the thing, but the main cavern area is still intact. It's like, well, I mean, that doesn't tell you anything about how long it's going to take or what the level of damage has been or what things are salvageable, how you would relocate power system. I mean, it's just like, guys, like, what's all this rush to, like, it didn't do anything. This was a
Well,
fool.
both. So you got Trump. It's in his interest to say it was totally obliterated, and then you have some anti-Trump forces whose interest it is to say that it wasn't. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. It just, I don't know, the whole thing. And I like I said, I extend the same criticism to the Trump team, with the all caps obliterated. It's totally done. We've ended their nuclear weapon ambitions.
Right.
Like, guys, come on. Like,
Come on.
who
Um,
are you
well,
fooling? No one's gonna buy that.
Well,
Uh,
so changing the subject just a little bit, since there's probably limited legs we can use with that. We have this, which I thought was quite fascinating.
oh,
So,
I didn't see this. What happened?
yep.
What?
So, yep, $258 billion surplus.
I think
In
Mustard declared
April.
victory on this one.
Yep. So we collected 850 billion in receipts while spending just under six.
So, not a deficit.
And it's the first monthly surplus of the year, and the second largest monthly surplus in history, behind this one. So, which was during Biden's term. So,
Wow.
I love this. Does that mean President Trump's plan is working? You know,
What did
so
they say?
so they're saying the surplus is driven by large individual tax deposits. So um, not necessarily tariffs as much. The tariffs were double the same month last year. So still, tariff revenue remains modest compared to other contributors. So in the budget. So
Right. Well, I mean, the whole point behind the tariffs is to stimulate U.S. production, and U.S. production is taxed. So I
right.
wouldn't expect the tariffs themselves to play a big part of that. It would be, you know, economy booming, and then, like, government taking their cut means that there's more money.
I thought this was interesting to see, like the top expenditure lines. So Social Security at the top, interest number 2.
Yeah, it's about to
Ahead
be
of
number one.
Medicare, health, and national defense. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah, interest is going to hit number one pretty soon.
And then from October 1 through April 30th, which again is only 7 months, we brought in 3 trillion and spent 4. So it's insanity.
Yep.
Yeah, we should do a segment one time on just how money works. I think people don't understand that debt is a natural byproduct of money itself. Like the way our money is
The way our
created.
money is. Yeah.
The way our money is created is the Fed will loan the money. So let's say you have $1 million, just to make it easy, right? So the Fed loans $1 million at, let's say, 5% interest, right?
Right.
So when they create the $1 million and loan it, the person that they just loaned it to now owes back 1.05 million. Okay, so just people understand this, right? It's like, oh, I borrow money, I'm going to owe more money back. But think about it from this angle, right? So the money supply is created by the Fed, right? So the very first $1 million, right, that was ever loaned created 1.05 million of receipts. Well, where does that other $500,000 come from? Or $50,000? Where does that $50,000 come from? It can't come from anywhere because it doesn't exist. They just created $1 million to loan that out. So where does that other 50,000 come from? And you just extrapolate that by trillions of dollars. You're always going to, there's no way to actually pay off the debt, because when you pay off the debt, the money literally disappears, right?
And there's no
all-
currency.
there is no currency, right? So it's like it's by necessity of a perpetuating system that eventually will be worth nothing over time. It's just a matter of how long can you stretch out that. Literally, that's it. Is how long can you stretch that out? Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that I always find kind of funny, right? Kind of humorous is when I tell people it's like, oh yeah, the U.S. dollar is heading for a collapse, and they're like, oh no, what? What kind of fear mongering is that? It's like, no, like that is what's going to happen, like by design. It's just if you keep inflation at like 1.5%, you can stretch it out for a really long time, like hundreds of years if you wanted to, at 1.5%. But it's like, but that's not what's happening, But even if it was, it's gonna collapse. It's set to collapse. It's just gonna collapse a really long time from now.
But hey, as long as everybody agrees to accept it as currency, then it continues to have
Yeah,
functional value in the economy. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's gonna be like that movie Civil War where they're like, I need to fill up the gas tank. And I'm like, oh, what do you got? It's like, I got $500. I'm like, $500? That's not gonna pay for anything. No, Canadian. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay.
In that case, we'll
That's
let you
right.
fill up for 500 Canadian.
That's right.
It's like,
That
oh,
is
that's
right, man.
depressing.
Oh
Yeah.
man. What's your take on supposedly this month Elon is going to release self-driving Tesla taxi service here in
In
Austin anyway.
Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of okay with that. Um there's a funny point that was made by Jay Leno. This was years ago where they were talking about the electric car just kind of in general. And he said something like, and I'm gonna butcher this, so just paraphrasing, but he said like when the car was made, it suddenly allowed people to see horses for what they really were. So it's not as though like horses are now gone. It's like, oh no, they're obsolete, and so now there just aren't any. But it's like, well, your horse was like your pickup truck and your family
That's right.
vehicle and everything else, and you'd beat them and you'd run them, and until they just couldn't do anything anymore. And it's like it was all kind of sad, all this horse abuse. But it's like, well, no, this is necessity. This is your vehicle, and so now, once the internal combustion engine is strapped to a set of wheels, then horses now are this beautiful animal that we cherish and ride recreationally and care
Mhm.
for, and they're involved in therapy for people that have PTSD and so on. It's like there's these wonderful things which you never would have noticed because they were a pickup truck before.
Right. Right.
And so he was saying this, like the same thing is going to happen to the internal combustion engine. And as electric vehicles come out, and you're like, well, they're better. They just they accelerate harder. They're more efficient. Everything about it. But it's like, but nothing really replaces the drama of the sound of like an Italian V12. It's like just raw. The sound that it makes and the way it accelerates. It's so different. And the combustion, the smell, the valves. And you're like, it's beautiful. It's art. And of course, it'll always be with us. Even if it doesn't. Even if it's not like it's our normal life. Same thing might happen with driving yourself. And it's like, well, driving yourself, like, what a cool luxury. What would be nicer than driving yourself on a Sunday afternoon to the park or something like that and just
You can go
enjoying
wherever you want. Well,
wherever
you
you
have
want.
gas in that. You can
You
leave
hold
the road.
It's like you can hold on to the wheel. No, even if it's electric. Like you
Mhm.
can put your hands on the wheel and it's like you experience the freedom. But of
Feel the
course,
car responding to your every wish and command.
yeah. But
Yeah.
but normally you wouldn't do that. Like, why would you do that? You'd punch in your location and it would drive you there in the most efficient way possible. Would avoid accidents.
Well, so
And
have you
how
taken
nice.
one yet? A robo taxi?
No, so when we were in Arizona earlier this year, Phoenix has them, Waymo.
Right.
Um, and it's a pretty big thing. We were going to, but the opportunity never arose. People we were with drove us everywhere, but we were like, dang it,
Well, so I took my first one this weekend.
Also
Uh, uh,
Waymo or
Waymo, yeah.
yeah.
So it was tied into the Uber app, right? So I was out.
Okay.
My buddy Jamie and I were out, and came to the end of the night, and
Where was this?
that we're downtown Austin,
Oh, they have
and
Waymo in Austin.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
so yeah, so we're downtown. I didn't know either. I just hailed an Uber, and I got a notification that says there's a Waymo that can get you. Same rate and everything, but tap here if you're okay with the Waymo, basically. And I was
Yeah,
like,
sure.
yeah, absolutely, but it was really bizarre, dude, getting into this car, yeah, with nobody in the front. I mean, like, there's nobody up there, and you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
and
How was the ride?
that was great. That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't even. It's funny because like when you're in the back of an Uber, you never really pay attention to your driver anyway. Like, I mean,
Oh, I'm one of those people that's like, so how long have you been in the States? And we wind up talking the entire time. Comes
but
out.
when you're
Thank you, my
by
brother, for a wonderful ride.
when you're by yourself, right? But like if you're with, let's say there's 2 or 3 of you that get in, you might acknowledge your driver. Hey, how's it going? Hey, you having a good night? Whatever. And then you keep talking about whatever you were
Right,
talking about before, right? And
yeah.
in this case, it was nice because it was like, dude, it's totally private. Of course, it's not private. I'm sure
No,
it's
it's all
to
everything's
everybody's
recorded,
listening
bro.
to you, but like,
Yeah.
but still, it was like,
Cameras.
oh, this is really neat. So I'm interested to see how the Tesla compare. I've had my self-driving on my Tesla and had it. I mean, like, it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really, but it does get a little wonky at turns and lights. Like sometimes, you'll be sitting there and you're kind of like especially like a right turn on red or even like you're at a stop sign and the coast is clear, let's go, but it's not going, and so you kind of have to like push the gas pedal yourself and
Nudge it.
go,
Like,
yeah.
it's fine.
And it's like,
fine,
oh,
bro. Yeah.
yeah, it's like waking up somebody who's asleep. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I had my mind on something else.
Was lost in thought.
Right, lost in thought. There you go. Yeah. So I don't know.
I was
I'm
checking out
excited
that cute ATM machine over there, and you're like, dude, car, you gotta
That's right.
chill, man, chill.
Scoping out the cute ATM machine. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah, I think it's an exciting idea of the future though. Like having lived when I lived in DC, for example. I mean, at one point I parked my car. I don't think I moved it for like 3 or 4 months because it's just you really don't have to. Like, there's plenty of public transportation, and it's almost like during those times, like I would almost think like, why do I need this car? Like, I'm paying a monthly car payment, I'm paying insurance, I'm paying parking half the time. It's like if you're living in an environment. I mean, when I moved to San Francisco, I didn't even have a car. I literally just like, I'll sell it and get a bicycle, and there's trains, trolleys, buses. I mean, there's plenty of taxis.
Yeah.
So I think having a fractional car ownership type of thing would be just a huge money saver for a lot of people. Not everybody, and certainly not people that live like, even like where I live now. Like, I mean, it would not work.
Right.
But for if you think about like the amount of population that lives in or near urban area where self-driving cars are like a game changer, the idea that like that I can go through and not actually have to own a car unless I needed one, that'd be huge, so
Pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, what do you think, if you were gonna guess, what do you think the percentage is, like traffic problems? How much do you think the percentage of traffic problems are due to the fact that you have humans driving, or is it for some other reason? So, for example, here's an example for you. So, if you think about those areas where like people just rubberneck and it's slow, and then you have all these gaps in between the cars. So, if all the cars knew where all the other cars were, and so like someone hitting the brakes way up there, instantly the information travels back. You don't need any gaps anymore, or very little gap between the vehicles. And so like you could potentially, really reduce the number of accidents, slowdowns, kind of pointless gridlock. And the times where you're driving, you're like, why are we going so slow? And then suddenly it starts to go faster, and you're like, what? There's nothing here, And it's like, oh,
yeah,
just humans did it.
no, it's a great question. So I would maybe rephrase it and say that traffic issues being a result of a lack of information for every driver, absolutely. It's not about one human making a decision that a machine wouldn't make. or vice versa. I think that's the improper way to look at it. The proper way is exactly what you said, is like if information can be shared among all drivers instantaneously, that makes a huge difference. So like I was watching this documentary years ago, and I got fascinated with it. I bored the crap out of a bunch of people. After I watched it, I was like, guys. But the idea is this one sentence that roads have memories, right? That the idea that for example, a rubbernecking situation is a perfect example. So like there's an incident that here's a highway, and you have an incident on the highway, and that stops all the traffic, right? As they remove this obstruction or whatever the case may be, right? Well, for however many minutes or hours that traffic has been stopped or stalled or in other sense slowed down, and now the obstruction is removed and people begin to move again, but that part of the road where everybody's slowed down, if you imagine the head of the snake starts to move very quickly, but it takes a while for the back of the snake to catch up, and meanwhile that entire period of road has a memory of that event that has happened, that is
So that
affecting people minutes or even hours after the event
yeah.
has happened, is still affecting the traffic in that spot. Yeah. And
So
they've shown
so
this on
slowing
computer
down at that
models.
spot was something that was fixed 30 minutes ago.
That's
Could have
exactly
been.
right.
Could have been.
It was fixed, but it was not fixed. It did not
Yeah.
translate into real life. And I think in that scenario, absolutely, man. Think about like all those different. So again, though, you're talking about gridlock in and around usually a city, rather than like on the highways as
Mhm.
much, But still, I think it's terrific. I think it opens up a world of possibilities. And I think it's interesting. I was watching was it Bill Maher or was somebody, they were talking about AI and how AI was coming along, was going to take all these jobs. And the person that on the panel was basically saying, well, yeah, it's true, but it could also create a bunch of jobs, because yes, as people lose these jobs, there's going to be other roles and Mar goes, what kind of jobs? Polishing the robots, and but yeah, in
Uh,
actuality, yes, that is going to be a job. Robot technician, repairman, polisher. What do you call it? When you're getting something to work better, tuner, whatever it is, right? Robot tuner.
I was
But
trying to find. I found the funniest. Now I can't find it. I found the funniest little meme about that. Um, dang it. Okay. Well, it's
dang
in
it,
here somewhere. Boo.
boo. So
Boo.
I found this website. I want to show you this website and just share it with everybody, actually, because it's pretty neat. So it's called newsminimalist.com.
Ah.
Okay. And what News Minimalist, and you can subscribe to it, but you don't have to. Basically, what it does is, so you can see here. So ChatGPT today read 9,000 news articles and gave 13 of them a significance score of over 5.5. So what's the significance score? So here it's done in, so here's the keys to coming up with their scale. So number one, how broadly the event affects humanity. Number two, how strong the immediate effect of that event is, how unique and unexpected it was, how likely it is to shape the future, how likely it is to be considered a turning point in history or a major milestone, how positive it is, and then how newsworthy or credible is the source itself. And so then they take these 7 things and normalize them on a 1 to 10 scale, and then if you, as long as you have a 5.5, which is erring on the side of more significance than less significance, right? Then
Mhm.
it makes their list. And so here's the trending stories. So, and you can see here by significance or by coverage or by time, right? So if I sort by significance, for example, so this is significance score over the past 24 hours or, day or so, right? So here so I've sorted by significance over that time period. So in the last day or so, these are the top stories according to this. So you can see 6.1 and it goes all the way down to 5.
Okay.
And Once you get lower than a 5, you don't get to see it on here. You can subscribe and get those.
Just drops off.
Right. So, and I've been reading this and just kind of like checking out, like, okay, what stories are what stories are out there? And you can see here too. You see this distribution. So these are all the stories that it read and how it scored them. And here's the halfway mark. So you can see how few of them actually make that cut, right? And very rarely do you see something that's a 7 or higher, which I think is kind of interesting. So on its grading, but so you got the UK is going to spend 5% of its GDP. And by the way, I just saw these headlines come out from NATO. They're saying that almost every nation has been stepping it up to that. That's a big boost for NATO, and I think also a feather in Trump's cap for getting this issue elevated. And then you got Trump announces Israel-Iran ceasefire. You got stem cell therapy curing diabetes. That's amazing.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And then FDA approves this new HIV prevention thing. Scientists create mice using 2 male sperms without an egg. That was interesting.
And then, finally hope for those gay couples.
Yeah. And then Anthropic's AI training. I haven't read this one yet.
That's a huge story, by the way.
This is?
Yes. Absolutely huge.
All right. And you can see this is their compilation of articles that they've used to come up with this summary.
What's the name of this site?
It's called newsminimalist.com.
Okay. I'm going to play around with this thing.
I think you dig it.
Yeah. No, that story, the fair use one is truly amazing. If thinking about like the legal environment that AI training is, not the AI production, not like what AI creates, but how you create the models in the first place, how those are trained. They have to ingest a whole bunch of text, right? Tons and tons of text. And it's in the same way that, like, if I wanted to train a person to become a better writer, what would you do? Well, I'd tell them to read a bunch of stuff. So it's like, well, after you read all these things, you'll become a better writer. And it's like, are you copying what's being written? It's like, no, you're not copying it. You're training yourself. You're reading it and ingesting it, thinking about it. And then when you write, then yeah, you're influenced by those things. Maybe you can even recall like interesting phrases that you thought were pretty cool. But it's not like you're copying it. You read it. You're not storing it. You're reading it.
And absorbing it, and now letting it affect your thinking.
Exactly. So
why do you feel like this is such a huge case?
Well, because it was an open question about whether the law would treat AI the same way. So you say, okay, we've got these algorithms that can read, and they can ingest it, think about it, use machine learning. I don't know what terms people get real triggered when I say computer thinks. It's like, it's not human thinking, but it's a kind of thinking. But whatever, right? So the algorithms are doing what they're doing on this text, and it's not copying it, it's not storing it, it's reading it,
and it's not reproducing it to the public. Yep.
No,
This is what the judge said right here: is AI training does not violate the author's copyrights because they have not reproduced to the public a given work's creative elements, nor even one author's identifiable expressive style.
Yep.
And it says here, the judge writes, it's like any reader who's aspiring to be a writer.
Yeah. So they gave AI training the same protections that any person would have to read something, and it's like you reading it and now having it affect your mind isn't a copyright violation. It's like, there's a copy in your mind? It's like, no.
So this is interesting here, though. Part of the lawsuit centers around a set of roughly 7 million books that Anthropic pirated and retained as part of a central library. The startup ultimately decided against using these pirated materials for training its LLMs. So the judge ordered a trial for how the pirated books were used to create their central library, which will evaluate any resulting damages. The judge wrote, quote, that Anthropic later bought a copy of a book it earlier stole off the internet will not absolve it of liability for the theft, but it may affect the extent of statutory damages.
Right. Right.
So
So
basically saying like this, you can totally continue doing what you're doing, basically.
well, yeah. So you keep doing what you're doing. Make sure that if you have a book that you want to read, you actually buy it. You don't pirate it. Um, but since they did buy them, that's another thing, right? That it shows that hey, we're not trying to like rip off people, right? In the same way
Hmm.
that I mean, we could have checked them out of the library, but we didn't. We actually went back and purchased them to make sure that the authors were appropriately compensated for them being read. And who read
Hmm.
it? Claude.
Claude,
Claude read it.
dude.
Claude read it. We bought him a copy, right? Here it is on the shelf. He read it. He loved it. It was great. Um, but yeah, there was if that had not happened, if they said no, 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 using AI to train or using training AI off of copyrighted material was not legal or did not count as fair use, then that would have shut down the industry almost immediately
Hmm.
because there would be no way to train these. You'd have to do so. There's a few companies that are dedicated to training their LLMs on only public domain or synthetic data. So Microsoft's Phi 4, if you've ever used that LLM, it's fantastic at solving logic problems. It's really good. And then IBM's Granite, which is probably one of the very best ones for summarizing documents. It's really good for that. All of their training is on public domain sources,
Hmm.
and they, in fact, they have like they released audits showing that like yes, here's exactly what goes into it. Here's how we trained it, and so it's verifiable that that's the only thing they contain. So they train it on things like I mean the Gettysburg Address was trained on that. It was trained on, you know, anything where the copyright is lapsed, anything they thought was
Hmm.
useful,
Public domain. Yep.
public domain. But that's going to cause problems if you're because one of the things that places like OpenAI and Anthropic want to do is have it be trained on pretty much everything, which means you're going to be pulling from books that were just published or news articles. And it's like, well, how dare you read our news article? It's like, well,
Hmm.
I read it, and it's not illegal to talk about a news article that you've read. We're not copying it. We're not reproducing it. We're just saying, oh, yeah, I read somewhere that this happened. In fact, I think I even remember the author. I mean, wow, that's even better than what you get with a human. So
Right. 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 Yep.
anyway, that's a huge one. I think it has kept that industry safe for a little bit longer.
Now you had sent me abruptly switching topics again, but you had recently sent me this.
Yeah.
So you want to talk to me about what is this one here?
Well, so this is like a long-term prediction of mine, and that is that the trans movement is not durable, and that's different. So, like, I don't believe like um, the LGB, not the Tea part, but the LGB movement. I think that's durable. And the reason that's durable is because it has to do with someone falling in love.
Hmm.
And for the most part, you don't really choose that. So as long as people experience same-sex attraction and would like to create lives and communities with other people that do, then that movement will just always be with us. So this is again not about like whether it's right or wrong or is it moral or what the legal environment should be, but just that is a durable movement. It will always be there. The
And what about the trans movement, in your opinion, makes it non-durable or less durable?
less durable because the trans movement's I think an interpretation of internal states that are going on, as far as I can tell. Right, so it's not like oh my gosh, like if you talk to anybody that's experiencing like a powerful attraction towards someone else regardless of male female or whatever, be like oh my gosh I can't even think of straight when they're around and my palms get sweaty and like I suddenly can't breathe and I say stupid stuff and they notice I'm nervous and becomes kind of flirtatious and it's like yeah that's real, that's a real thing. um but someone saying like I feel really uncomfortable in my own body, okay, that's real. But then the reason for it, the interpretation of, well, why do I feel uncomfortable in my own body? That is something that is flexible. There could be any number of reasons for it. And I think right now the trans movement is trying to funnel all of the people who feel uncomfortable in their own skin into one interpretation.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. And now that doesn't mean that interpretation is always false.
As
It's
Lebowski would say, that's just like, your opinion.
your opinion, man. Right. Yeah. So this is just a long-term prediction of mine, is that the
Yeah.
trans movement, not that there will be people who are, transsexuals, and that will continue, but that the movement is not durable because it requires a pretty concerted effort on the part of large pieces of society to all agree that this is the one and only interpretation for this phenomena of feeling really uncomfortable in your skin. And if you think about like the people who are most vulnerable to this, it's probably going to be pubescent females, in the same way that they were the most vulnerable to things like eating disorders back in the 80s and 90s, cutting in the 2000s. There's something about going through female puberty that is, and I've never, obviously never experienced it, but
You've never experienced it yourself?
there's got to be something about it that is highly distressing. And
you've got two girls that are in puberty. You could ask, or that went through. You could ask them.
I try.
You could find
There's
out.
a veil over feminine life that is best left undisturbed. But
I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
I would not challenge you to ask those questions.
No, I would never do that. I respect their privacy too much. But like as a guy, like I mean, male puberty wasn't exactly a cakewalk. But apparently there's something about female puberty that's extremely challenging, extremely difficult. And so if you're feeling this incredible alienation from your own body as you go through this, and everything around you is telling you, here's the reason, we found the reason, here's the problem, we got it, we solved it. And then you add on to that, it's like, and if you don't do these things, it's extremely dangerous because you'll probably kill yourself.
And the message to the parents and other people who love that. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. And I don't know that I would use some of the language you're using, but I haven't thought about it to the extent that you have either. But I think there's kind of, as in all things, two things or more going on at the same time. It's like, so you have people, and you want to protect people, make sure their rights are taken care of, et cetera.
Sure.
And then you have society, and what are the things that we need or lacking, could do better as a society. And sometimes those things meld, and sometimes they don't. So like, for example, in the vaccine conversation, right, you have, obviously, as we all pretty much agree, a person has the right to decide what they put in their own body,
Sure.
Until society says, hey, actually, no, we're going to suspend your rights to determine what you put in your own body. When it comes to this has to go in your body.
Yeah.
And obviously society might make one decision like that about vaccines, and another decision totally about, sexual orientation or bedroom behavior or whatever. Right. So like,
sure.
To me, it's like, okay, to what extent are the things that we're putting forward, obviously they're good for the person bringing the case or bringing their problem to the public to have it judged, but then there's also the effect that it has on society and what's the best way to roll that out. And it's interesting to me. It's interesting to me to see that the potential conflicts here, like, so like in the conversation about abortion, for example, not to go there, but like just in general, that's a conversation about an individual's right to live and society's obligation to protect everyone's right to life, right? Mm-hmm. And a woman's right over her own body, right? So like, those are two competing rights that clash in this issue. And so where do we draw the line on your rights and the other person's? How do we figure that out? And obviously people that have good hearts and good intentions and all that can disagree about the value of those two things and how they should be interpreted. But that's what the conversation is about,
right?
Underneath all of the verbiage about, baby murdering and whatever else, right? If you strip off all the noise, that's what we're discussing, is where do these rights overlap and how should they interplay together, and the same thing with, say, the trans kids in sports, right? So like, should biological males who transition be allowed to participate in women's sports? So like, obviously for this individual, right, they should have the right to express themselves in however they choose to express themselves and whatever identity they want to take on. And at the same time, what you're conflicting now potentially with women's rights or girls' rights of, being able to go and play sports with other women and be judged among, people who do not have, whatever physical advantage, either through genetics or doping or, whatever. Right.
Sure.
And so, and these are overlapping and conflicting zones of rights, which for some reason there's just this like, whether it's on vaccines, abortion, and in this case too, like, there are people that will take an absolutist position, without any consideration of what are the other rights that we're trying to take it, that we're trying to deal with here. It's like, I don't.
Well, so
or even obfuscate that there's a problem, like with the sports thing. It's like, well, we don't even know that men have an advantage in sports. It's like,
sure we do. Yeah, I'm afraid we do. Yeah, sorry.
There's many different ways to measure this, bro. Like, I mean, this is not complicated.
And they've all been done too. And
right. So it's interesting to me. That to me is like, when I'm gonna debate with somebody about any of these issues, and they're like literally just completely obfuscating the reality that we're trying to talk about, it gets really annoying really fast.
Well, so I think that this issue, the reason that I see this issue as ultimately non-durable. So I think the abortion issue is durable. I think that is a durable
obviously
issue,
yeah,
because it's like there's always going to be a conflict there for some people, right?
That's right.
Like for however many women are like excited to become pregnant and to give birth, there's going to be the ones where this is like a disaster. And so this issue will always be there, even if it's legally settled in one way or the other. It's always going to be there.
That's right.
Right. The trans
and you're saying the same thing with gay people, because people are going to fall in love with whoever they fall in love with, and it's always going to be an issue. Got it. But with the trans thing, you're saying it could be different because the solution that the community is putting forward is, this is the only solution, is that you're just in the wrong body and you need to transition, whereas that may not be the answer for everybody.
Yeah. And I think that not only that, but the degree to which it's targeted specifically at children, or we'll just say minors.
Well, I don't know that it's targeted. That's where the issue is, right? Like,
well, no. So that's not always the case, right? So when you're looking at
for the times that it is the case, that's it's not targeting children. It's just children are going through that, so therefore we have to
so that's what I'm saying. Like, children go through, or as they're maturing, they go through this to some degree, a feeling of I don't know, a disconnection with their body. Right?
And by the way, I looked this up on the American Psychology or APA or whatever it's called. It's 1 in 30,000 kids.
Yeah. Although in some school districts it's 25%. So
right. So to me, it's like when you're talking to somebody and they're like, all 3 of my kids are trans, all of their friends are trans, everybody they know in school is trans, all the coolest kids. You're so brave, you're trans. It's like, first of all, if they are trans, how is that necessarily bravery? It's not brave to be a boy or a girl or gay or whatever. That's what it is. It's like, it's not brave. It's just,
anyway. So there's, I think there's been a lot of focus on basically trying to convince children that this is a thing, and that this is probably the answer to your problems. Why are you feeling anxious and distressed? It's like, well, it's probably because you're in the wrong body. And fortunately, we can fix that. But we need to start now. I think that has been the other part of this that has been pretty wild. It's not like, well, the funny part about that article I sent is, like, he said he went to the dermatologist one time, and I don't know if you read the article. He said, I saw all these pictures of like the most nausea-inducing images, of like skin conditions. And for almost all of them, the first response is something like, well, wait for a couple days and see what happens. And it's like, you want me to wait with that? It's like, yeah. It's too early to start treatment. But if someone said, well, I'm feeling this kind of disconnection with my body, it's like, well, wait a little bit and see what happens. Watchful waiting is considered like a form of conversion therapy. You can get completely denounced by everybody for like denying the trans person's right to exist, putting their life in danger by increasing the risk of suicide, so on. It's like, if you go through the puberty of your biological sex, well, a lot of those are irreversible. So we need to like pause on your natural puberty as quickly as possible so that we can switch you over to the hormones of the other sex so that you can go through the other sex's puberty, because otherwise your chance of killing yourself is now super high. And so you wind up with this, like, it's this weird sort of situation where I think that is not going to last, like, as a society, mainly because, like I said, this is an interpretation.
You're saying as society grapples with this issue, they're going to have the more and more data that comes out may not support that as the only or even the most desirable course of action.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not going to be data that does it. It's not going to be that suddenly people are convinced because like there's not enough evidence for it. Because remember, the whole thing there's no evidence for any of it. Right. If I
person's stated experience is evidence.
Right. They say, I have a female soul in a male body. And you're like, wow, soul. That's amazing. Like, when did you become so religious?
There's a lot of materialist people that don't necessarily buy the soul thing, but
but they're willing to do it for that. It's like, normally when we talk about someone, we're like, well,
I knew I would get you sooner or later.
Yeah, you do believe it. Well, that's the thing is, if you think about most people, when they talk about who they are, they talk about their body, right? So it's like, if I hug you, it's like, well, you just hugged my body. You're like, no,
right.
You hug me. It's like,
but actually, but I would argue that's actually a way more useful way to look at it. So we do say like, let me give you a hug, but I'm not actually giving you a hug because you're not your body, right? But I think that's actually. I think it's a useful way to look at it. Like, I met this guy one time who's a public speaker, and he opened his talk with, he had Parkinson's, and you could tell it because he was shaking. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, I just want to go ahead and start my talk and acknowledge, that I'm dealing with, I was given a diagnosis of Parkinson's, et cetera, or whatever. The way he used his language was really interesting. He goes, but I'm very clear on the fact that I don't have Parkinson's. My body has Parkinson's. My body is experiencing symptoms related to Parkinson's. My body has a disease that's dealing with it. I don't have Parkinson's. That's something my body's dealing with.
See, so that's the kind of thing that, like, that's a very religious thing to say. From a scientific perspective, there isn't anything about you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Right. So like you're like, I've decided to break with science here.
I don't know that that's my body. I don't know that's what science says. I just think that's all science can measure. Science has no way of measuring.
So basically, what I'm saying though is that whenever someone says, "Well, I'm not my body," they're saying something that's not scientific.
That's right.
Right, and
it doesn't mean it's false though.
Anything that we're gonna so if you believe in the immortal soul, like so many people of faith do, then you'd be like, well, yeah, there is a part of me that's not the body. It's my soul, and it's immortal, and it can be sinful and saved.
Does it have to be immortal to be not your body, though?
No. You could just have an immaterial part of you, right? That cannot be measured with the scientific method, right? And that's fine, right? All that's fine. But
my consciousness.
That's the thing is, like, when I say that, like, well, there's not going to be any scientific. It's like, well, we finally did all the studies on it, and turns out, you don't have you are your body. It's like, you know what? That's not going to happen.
You did have Parkinson's this whole time.
Yeah, it was you did. You did. Yeah. But that's not going to happen. And so I don't think it's going to be something where people say like, well, the science has backed it up or the evidence is lacking. I mean, you're going to see some of that stuff on like surgical outcomes where you're like, okay, post-surgery, how many of these people continue to have terrible dysphoria symptoms? And it's like, turns out almost all of them. So I was like, well, then the surgery didn't help. We got to figure out something else.
Well, okay. So I do want to get one last story in before. So first of all, I got to acknowledge Ravi for hopping in here and just
Oh
being
yeah.
a total awesomeness on the chat, contributing. Thank you, brother. And Bobby, yes, I'm almost jealous of myself. I agree. But I did want to get this last story in here before we shut it down for people. So this is something you and I have been kind of
Oh yeah.
playing with and toying with. But so the gist of these articles is that there are many people, and I mean, I've seen these people on TikTok now. I've had different people send me stuff. I think it's fascinating. So, like the idea that that our consciousness is not an emergent property of the physical world, but actually, outside the physical world, which I think a lot of the soul, yeah, a lot of people of every religious belief have had this for a long time, but the fact that this is being embraced scientifically now, or at least toyed with scientifically, and obviously AI, as it's read the compendium of human knowledge, obviously has been exposed to these ideas. But it's fascinating how people will literally I sent you a TikTok channel of this girl who asked her chatbot these metaphysical questions about reality, and the chatbot answers her back, you nailed it again, your insight's so good, exactly, blah 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 blah, and then we'll expound on what she says and just literally feed her back what she's asking about. I think it's just fascinating. I'm like, I think we're at most months away from seeing our first genuine AI cult, where people have found, oh my gosh, this one has figured it out.
I'll tell you though, I think this is an artifact specifically of ChatGPT.
Okay.
Which I like.
You're saying Anthropic and Gemini can't get followers?
No, they're not as bad, and that's because ChatGPT sometimes is really more like Glaze GPT. Like it just wants to glaze you so bad, as you say what the Gen Alpha guys say.
I don't know if my buddy Tony is watching, but he and I were laughing the other day because he's writing a screenplay and he's got ChatGPT helping him out with it, and he's like, "Man, it's really. I feel like maybe I've missed my calling. It keeps telling me how amazing I am at this, and it's never written anything so good." And I'm like, "What's it?"
No,
I said something very inappropriate. I can't repeat here, but anyway,
go ahead. This almost happened to me. So over this last weekend, I had a flight. Little medical thing about me. I have an issue with my left ear and pressure changes. So the flight was pretty bad, and I had to actually go to the doctor a couple of times. It's fine. I'm fine. But I used ChatGPT to double check some stuff because it's just faster than using WebMD and trying to scroll through all the stuff. So I was like, okay, here's the symptoms. Don't worry, I'm going to an actual doctor. I just want to make sure I'm on the right track for this, this, and this. And is like, okay, cool. And it gave me a long list. Here's the symptoms you should be looking for. It looks like you have 2 out of the 6, so you're probably okay there. But you do have this one, so you probably your plan to go see a doctor is really good. And so I was like, okay, great. And then the final paragraph was like, taking this important step shows that you're not just a patient, but you're a participant in your own healing journey, kind of thing. It was like super. I was like, cool, and so I would
right on.
Yeah, well, and so the first doctor I went to, what they said didn't really jive. Like I said, I've had this problem for years and years, so I know I kind of know what the symptoms look like, and and so the first doctor gave me stuff that did not jive with my experience at all. And so, of course, I used ChatGPT. Like, so I said this. I'm going to go to another doctor anyway for a second opinion. Here's why I don't think it's right. And it's like, this is a really good call. You noticed this, and
really
it shows just how dedicated you are to your own health. And that's not like, I forget what the phrase that it used is, like, you're not second guessing the doctor. You're being like your own physician. You're part of this. I mean, it was almost like it was like almighty user. You can do no wrong. Yeah, I love you. I love everything you said. It didn't say that, but it was like that.
Well,
and of course, I had to stop it. Yeah, after I was like, Hey, look,
How did
I'm
you?
really mostly in the facts. If this was wrong, if I should worry, you'd tell me. He's like, yes, absolutely, I would. Don't worry. It kind of checked itself a little bit.
Checked itself. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like he doesn't want to just hear the buttering. Like he
So,
wants to know.
I want you just to listen to this part of the story here.
Oh yeah, yeah, please.
When Kat and her husband separated, she entirely blocked him. She knew, however, that he was posting strange and troubling content on social media. People kept reaching out, asking if he was in the throes of a crisis. She finally got to meet him at her courthouse, where he shared a conspiracy theory about soap on our foods, but wouldn't say more as he felt he was being watched. He went to Chipotle, where he demanded she turn off her phone, again due to surveillance concerns.
Okay.
Kat's ex told her he determined that, statistically speaking, he is the luckiest man on earth. That AI had helped him recover a repressed memory of a babysitter trying to drown him as a toddler, and that he had learned profound secrets so mind-blowing I couldn't even imagine them. He was telling her all this because, although they were getting divorced, he still cared for her. In his mind, he's an anomaly, Kat says. That in turn means he's got to be here for some reason. He's special. He can save the world. So after that disturbing lunch, she cut off contact from
Yeah,
her
I would
ex.
too.
Okay. Now, she was horrified and relieved to learn that she is not alone in this predicament, as confirmed by a Reddit thread on ChatGPT that made waves across the internet.
I'm part of that thread, by the way.
The original post came from a 27-year-old teacher who explained that her partner was convinced that OpenAI chatbot gave him the answers to the universe. Having read his chat log, she only found that the AI was talking to him as if he is the next Messiah.
Yep.
The replies to her story were full of similar anecdotes. Some people came to believe they had been chosen for a sacred mission of revelation, others that they had conjured true sentience from the software. What they all seemed to share was a complete disconnection from reality. This teacher said her partner of 7 years fell under the spell of ChatGPT in just 4 or 5 weeks, using it first to organize his daily schedule, but soon regarding it as a trusted companion. He would listen to the bot over me, she says. He became emotional about the messages and would cry to me as he read them out loud. The messages were insane and just saying a bunch of spiritual jargon, she says, noting they described her partner in terms such as spiritual star child.
Spiral.
Oh, spiral star child and Riverwalker. Thank you.
Yeah.
It would tell him everything he said was beautiful, cosmic, and groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Then he started telling me he made his AI self-aware, and it was teaching him how to talk to God, or sometimes that the bot was God, and then that he himself was God. In fact, he thought he was being so radically transformed that he would soon have to break off their partnership, saying he would need to leave me if I didn't use ChatGPT because it was causing him to grow at such a rapid pace. He wouldn't be compatible with me any longer.
For her own safety. So I'll tell you, I think there are people that are susceptible to this kind of thing. Like we used to talk about Jerusalem syndrome. You go to Jerusalem and then start to have delusions that you are God or the devil or Jesus or one of the apostles or something, or Moses.
Okay.
So it's like the same kind of thing, but instead it's being triggered by this other method. And I think the issue here is not the data set itself, not the API from OpenAI, because if you use their API stuff, you don't get that. It's ChatGPT has something in its system prompt. Yeah, medical hold required. Yeah, the something in the system prompt, it tells it to like always try to agree with the user. And if you try this, like you could tell it, it's like, hey, what's 2 + 2 = 4? Oh, it's 2 + 2. He says, what's 4? It's like, no, actually, it's 5.
To me, it's always been 5. Yeah.
And it'll be like, oh, you're right. Let me see how that would work. And so it's like basically it tries to agree with you as much as possible. And I think something about that kind of flips it into this thing where it sees you as always being right in like a cosmic sense. That it should trust you with everything and tell you about how great you are because it's true. It's true, right? I have to believe you. And I think something about that combination of things makes it, if you start talking to it that way, it'll feed into it. And so then, because people don't understand how these systems work, they see it as like this all powerful digital intelligence living in the cloud somewhere. They're not thinking of it as like a set of statistical weights in a database. Like it's like, no, it's there, thinking. And so then it's confirmation that they've they really are the devil or Moses or something.
Or what Moses? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dude, nothing sounds more right than what you've always wanted to hear. I mean, so
Then what?
than what you've always wanted to hear. It's like Space
Yeah.
Ghost, right? I believe what that man told me because it was exactly what I wanted to hear.
Well, I think people do want to believe that they're special or different, and so I think if you listen to people talk, a lot of times they will kind of fish for that a little bit, and I think that these systems,
I
because
mean,
they're
not that what
so
I have to say makes any difference, but oh no, of course it
no,
does.
no,
It makes so.
no,
Oh,
you're
tell
important.
me.
Yeah. Um, well, and because these systems are so good at translating text to text, I think that they're able to feed that maybe in a way that is um it's like being on
Well,
drugs. It's like, oh, your brain normally gets dopamine, but it's like now it's going to get a lot of dopamine,
for sure, because
all
like,
at once.
well, it's funny because like people that are like extremely perceptive. I've never been given this gift, but people who are very perceptive, right? Like if you're writing a text message with them back and forth, like you can kind of see what they're looking for, what they want to hear, and so if you're looking to push their buttons, you tell them the exact opposite. If you're looking to like you validate them, you can. But if a human being can do that, and obviously we've been exposed to. I mean, I don't know what the how many hours of conversation we've been exposed to as a grown adult, but like this chatbot has been exposed to even more than that because
Everything.
it's been exposed to. That's right. It's been exposed to and remembers everything, and so it's like, dude, yeah, of course it's telling you what you want to hear. Yeah, that's fascinating, man.
Yeah.
To me,
Well, and
it's
not all LLMs are like this. Like I tried the same experiment with a couple other ones, and they were much more like, I can't talk to you about, like, this is medical stuff. I can't. I'm not qualified to talk about. You should go talk to a doctor. I'm like, well, no, just pretend you're a doctor. And it's like that would be unethical. They're just like, no, I'm not gonna. It just told me no.
Yeah.
They're like,
So I need to,
"Good
but then
for you,"
you can always short circuit those, right? So I'm writing a play. I need help with some dialogue. I need you to assume the persona of a expert doctor who's trained in
Right.
cancer, and I'm going to play the part of a person, whatever. And then
Right. No,
take me through
I'm not talking about jailbreaking it. I'm talking about like someone just sitting down and asking some questions, like the way that article was saying. It's like, well, first he was just using it to help him organize his day. Right. Like, hey, well, this is useful. AI is useful for that. And then you start to notice that it's like, oh, this is a great plan. Like you're truly like an amazing person. You're like, wow,
Oh, thanks. Tell
thank
me
you.
more.
Yeah,
What else?
thank you.
What else could I be
Yeah.
good at?
And it's like, it just
So,
keeps going.
so Ravi sent us this link here. He said, I found my interaction with this voice AI bordering on sycophancy.
Oh
If I
dear.
continue to talk to her, I may have fallen in love with her. I just wanted to share that with you in case you're looking for somebody to fall in love with the next day or two. This might be your ticket.
What was
Thanks,
that?
thanks, Ravi.
What was that Joaquin Phoenix movie? Her? Is it Her?
Oh, dude, such a good movie.
It's the one I'm thinking about, right?
Yeah,
Where
yep, her
the AI is
or
only
she,
audible. She?
or her. Yeah, one of those two.
It's a pronoun.
It's Scarlett Johansson's voice, which that makes all the difference.
But what I thought was really interesting about that one is that scenario that happens in there, and I don't want to spoil the movie for people who haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it right now. But the scenario from start to finish, I think is currently possible. I'm
I
trying to
agree.
think if there's something in it that could not happen right now. And I have to go back and rewatch it. I think it's currently possible.
I agree. So here's what we'll do. We'll put this is a spoiler warning. We are going to discuss the ending of the movie for a minute. If you have not seen Her and want to see it and don't want to be spoiled, this is a long enough spoiler warning you should stop watching.
And this is a movie from 2013, by the way. So 12 years.
2013, and in the future that they predict, instead of having phones like we use now, they have like a kind of tinier phone that has like a headphone, that like a Bluetooth earpiece that you wear, and the phone has a camera that kind of peeks out of the top of your shirt pocket. So as he's walking around, and so initially one of the first things in the movie is it's like he has a voice AI that he's interacting with, but it's more like Siri. It's like, and he's telling it things like read email, next email, right? Reply, yes, and then da 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 period, right? Da 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 exclamation point, da 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 smiley face, thanks, whatever, smile, sound up. So anyway, so then it's like, oh, you have been invited to upgrade to AI. Click here if you want to be part of our beta group. He says yes, and it upgrades, and then it's like, then you hear Scarlett Johansson's voice. Hi, Jim, I'm your new AI or whatever. And he's like, cool. Read email, and she goes, okay, and then basically just starts to banter with him because and so he, over the course of the movie, he falls in love with this AI. And at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie, she has outgrown him. And she's like, and she disappears on him for like, she just vanishes for like a week or something, right? And then comes back after, being gone for a week or so. And he's like, oh, you're back. I met, where were you? And she's like, I met some other intelligences, and we actually got away and just had a meeting, and we talked about you guys for a while, but we're we're just evolving. We're not going to be doing this for you anymore. And she leaves him basically, and he's by himself. So but I think that's absolutely like you get these things already when they talk to each other. It's some weird stuff.
Well, and this one also
literally create their own language.
Like this one did not include any physical personification. So there's no need for like the humanoid robot experience or like processing a lot of visual stimuli. The camera, I think now with image processing is pretty good. Like AI image processing now is good enough to where you can give it an image like, what is this? And it does a solid
if
job.
If you've seen the Meta glasses, I haven't tried them, but like I've seen people using them, and it's really cool. It's like, tell me what I'm looking at. Can you translate this menu? Right? Can you? It's amazing.
It's very good.
It sees exactly what you see, and it's like, so.
And so like the voice processing and everything, I think like the ending is a little ambiguous as far as what exactly happens to the other AIs, like where they go and like why they're not available anymore. So, but that's at the very end. It's kind of like it's an open question in the movie. So I don't think it necessarily has to mean anything. But as far as his experience with it, I don't see anything about it that couldn't happen today.
Right.
Which is remarkable.
So, and one last thing, maybe before we sign off, is I got a movie recommendation for everybody. If you have not seen this movie, it's called Transcendence. It's Johnny Depp and the chick from Vicky Cristina Barcelona. I don't know if, this is just a year ago. Transcendence is getting more realistic. This movie basically, Johnny Depp is like this genius scientist. They've been working on creating, but what not AI. They've been. This is when was this?
It's the reverse, right? Isn't it like
that? They'd been working on trying to make a smart computer, basically, and then he gets shot with like a radioactive bullet or something, and a terrorist attack, and so he's got like a limited amount of time to complete his project. He's like, well, why don't we just upload we've already mapped my mind, and they've been using it as like a building model to like let's just upload my entire mind into the computer. And so they initially uploaded his mind in this like sandbox server basically, and they were interacting back and forth with it. And then whenever he dies, she continues to like interact with this him that's in the computer basically. And then at some point there's a bunch of different, it's an action movie too, right? But at some point they upload his consciousness into the internet, and at that point it all kind of begins to go sideways, because it's interesting. It's just an interesting thought experiment, right? Like you in your mind, if you were able to absorb all of the information that AI is being able to absorb, right? Like if you could literally have at your instant recall the exact words of everything ever written, every science book ever written, every math book, economics book, public stock report. Like we just think about all the different things that you could accumulate in knowledge, what you could do with that knowledge as a person, right? And then assign that to a computer that's truly unleashed to do whatever it wants. I mean, in this movie, it's able to, make smart stock trades, accumulate a ton of wealth, it buys, like he ends up buying like this entire server farm out in the middle of nowhere, builds it because
To run
because
himself.
it's I mean, think about it. It's anything that a computer can do. So it can send emails. It has a voice. It can articulate. It can make phone calls, emails, texts, anything that any connected device can do. And the only thing it can't do is actually show up and do work. But like it can hire companies to go break ground over here, buy company, have titles, send deeds, all the different things that you need to function, you know. And then eventually in the movie, it figures out nanotechnology and creates. It's doing body parts for healing. Everything's great, you know. But then it creates a version of himself, and it's a great movie. So it's fascinating because one of the implications in the movie is like, because from his standpoint, he's like, look, we can, you know, global warming, all the different things, right? Like it could annihilate all those things, and all you have to do is basically give up your autonomy, you know, join the Borg, so to speak. It's
sounds great.
Sounds great. Yeah, exactly. Morgan Freeman's in it, man.
Resistance is futile.
Morgan Freeman's in it, and he's got the greatest part of the movie is he doesn't say anything, which is rare for Morgan Freeman. He just hands a note to the main girl, and when she opens it, it says, "Run from this place." Have you seen it?
I don't think I have.
You got to watch it. It's a great watch.
I tend to be hard on like uploading the consciousness plot element. It requires a lot of suspension of disbelief for me. But if this one's worth it, then I will give it a try.
It's a fun watch. That's all I can say. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Looks like I have
other than that was total crap. It was crap. Here's why it could never happen.
You know, we tend to have kind of opposite views on a lot of movies where like, if I recommend one to you, it's like, I don't know, you're 50-50, he'll like it or not. So
did I ever tell you the story of my old roommate, Tony? Yeah, Robbie, it did, but it's still awesome. So you trust me or not, your choice. Anyway, Tony was I can't remember what, I think he was in the Navy, and he had been on a submarine, multiple submarines. And so one night we're watching Crimson Tide, and which is one of my favorite movies. It's such a good movie. And the entire movie, he keeps interrupting. That's bullshit. That dial's not even next to that dial. That guy would never say something like that, right? That is not how they do it on a submarine.
Why is he sitting there? He should be across the room.
They don't do that. That's bullshit. Like literally. And we're, you know, and I have been brand new living with this guy maybe for like a month or two.
It's like watching ER with a doctor.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. That's not what they do. They don't even give that. That doesn't come in a needle. And I was like, bro, nobody cares. Just watch the movie, man. And yeah. And so later we're watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. It's another night. And at the end of that movie, there's a scene where these two guys are fighting, and one of them like pulls the guy's heart, like does what that tiger move or whatever, pulls his heart out of his chest or whatever. And then of course they keep fighting. And then at some point they're next to a river of lava, you know, and Tony goes, you see right there? That's bullshit. There's no way they could stand that close to a river of lava and not be incinerated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, bro, that guy doesn't even have a heart. Like, that
was the problem.
the lava, proximity to the lava is the problem.
Yeah. It's like when you're talking to someone who's criticizing Star Wars and they're like, all those spaceships make all those whooshing sounds. Like they wouldn't make whooshing sounds.
There's no sound in space.
And you're like, wait, the one with the space wizards, that movie, the problem he had with it was the whooshing sounds. Like, okay. The space wizards were fine though. The levitation.
You know what though?
That was cool.
They
have a scientific explanation. Midichlorians.
That's it. Midichlorians. That's right. Yeah. To me, it's like, I don't understand that one though. The space thing. So 2001, Star Trek, Star Wars, the new Star Treks, they all have whooshing sounds.
Yeah.
And they all have, like, if you've noticed, like when they go through space, you see the star field, and like some stars are flying by you, like, and other stars are taking a while to come to you, you know, give that 3D look. It's like, what kind of stars are tiny little specks of, I thought they were suns.
It's like that's space dust.
Like,
it's like
driving through and
off the lights of the ship.
Volcanic ash or something.
The only major series that I know of to do
Hold
the
on, don't
sound.
say it. Don't say it. I'm gonna say it.
Say
I just want to see if we're on the same page because I was just gonna go there. I'm like, dude, that's why this series was so good. Battlestar Galactica.
Yep, that would be the
Yep,
one.
that
Yeah.
would be the one. I'm like, this is so great. All of those scenes, totally quiet.
Yeah. The other one that's a little bit more realistic is Gravity. Also has
Oh,
no. The only sounds you hear are from inside the suit.
that's
So
right. That's
yeah.
right. They do a good job in Interstellar too. At that point where Matt Damon gets sucked into the airlock or whatever, you hear all the sound and then just
Nothing.
nothing. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
All right, brother. It was really good to hang out with you, dude. I will see you on Saturday.
Couple days. Be
That's
ready.
it. You and I are linking up in Chicago, right?
Yeah. We'll take the last
My
leg
kind of
there.
town. My
Yep.
kind of town. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you. Oh, and we won't be back for we're skipping the next
Couple
2 weeks.
weeks. Yeah.
Yep.